Look at how possibly done more 44 years ago that, led you to me. I know I didn't kill nobody. I didn't assault nobody.
This is 62-year-old Andre Taylor. 44 years ago, Andre was responsible for attacking and murdering Vicki Lynn Beck. For all that time, Andre believed that he'd perfectly covered up his tracks, and no one would ever discover what he'd done, all until now.
That's not my style, killing no woman or nothing like that.
Because for those 4 decades, detectives have worked tirelessly to make sure they put this monster behind bars. But can they? Or will Andre get away with it all for one more time?
I'm not going to stick around and go to jail or be charged with something that I didn't do.
It was on August 28, 1979, when 28-year-old Vicki Lynn Beck was reported missing by her boyfriend at the time. The government worker and loving mother did not return to her apartment in Suitland, concerning her partner greatly. The next day, law enforcement were called to a wooded area at Bryans Road near Charles County after a teenager made a startling discovery roughly 20 feet from the roadway. What they found left them sick to their stomachs. Vicki had been and murdered. Investigators found a DNA sample on her clothing, but the technology at the time was far too primitive to trace who it came from. For over 40 years, the case remained on ice. Vicki's child was left motherless, and her surviving family members were haunted, knowing that the killer was still out there. However, the case was eventually reopened by Detective Sergeant John Elliott of the Criminal Investigations Division and was aided by advanced DNA technology. On November 1st, 2022, a match was found in the Combined DNA Index System National Database. 63-year-old Andre Taylor, a repeat offender of numerous violent crimes over the years. Though he had no set address in 2019, he was eventually tracked down to a rehabilitation center in Washington, D.C., via a trail of federal assistance income he was receiving up to this point. The police finally had a chance to avenge the victim by trying to extract the truth from him. But was he going to be willing to talk?
I know you guys made some mistakes in the past. Like I said, I'm not here to judge you, but again, there's some things that led me to you. Your name just didn't come out of the blue. Maybe some of those mistakes, like I said, were in the past. Here we are almost, for the case I'm investigating, almost 44 years later.
44 years later.
Yeah.
Look at how possibly done more 44 years ago that, led you to me.
Well, remember I told you I came to get your DNA?
Yeah.
Well, there's some DNA evidence that brought your name into it.
I used to, date a lot of women.
Okay. Remember that picture I showed you?
Of that woman?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember, but I remember the picture. You showing me a picture.
Right. I'll show it to you again just to make sure. Remember that picture?
Oh, man.
Who's that? Remember that?
Yeah, me?
That was you back when you were 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Of course, nowadays.
That wasn't the picture you showed me.
I didn't show you the old picture of you. No, I didn't show you that back in March. This is the picture I showed you back in March. These pictures.
Something like that.
Yeah, they're the same exact picture.
Who is she? I mean, if I seen her, I can't say I seen her.
Yeah.
In passing. I don't know. I can't say I know her or don't know her.
That's fair.
So many women I have come in contact with in my life.
Andre would have been only 18 when Vicki was discovered. Still, he doesn't seem too enthusiastic about talking about what he remembers from well over 4 decades ago. It's interesting that he brings up how he dates a lot of women. Has he already realized that he's the prime suspect? And is this flimsy excuse an attempt to maintain his innocence? Words alone are not going to get him to open up. So to help jog his memory, the detectives show him a photo.
I'll explain the reason why I showed you her picture. August of 1979, her body was found in Bryans Road. When I say her body, she was deceased.
Okay. That's not my work.
Okay. You say it's not your work.
That's not my work.
What kind of work?
When I say it's not my work, I don't do nothing like that.
Okay.
You know? No, that's not me.
Well, one of the reasons why we got your DNA is we processed her clothes. Her clothes were she was still wearing clothes, but her dress was pulled up above the waist. Apparently she was found. Or maybe even before or after, I'm not sure. But on her dress, we found your DNA.
How's that? I don't even know her. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't see her on Bryan's Road, and I did. But I'm saying, as far as I know her, I never seen that woman.
Okay.
I can't walk up and say, oh, I know her, speak to her, that I know her. I can't do that.
Right.
You know? Just like me and you sitting here talking.
Mm-hmm.
We walk down the street later on, and I walk past her. I don't say, oh, I don't know him. I've seen him before. I don't know what's going on, man.
Right. Well, there's going to be some explanation. What I think happened, I'm very straight and honest with you. What I think happened is you probably stole her car, abducted her from the metro station there at RFK.
You said that before.
Right.
I didn't steal no car.
Okay.
If I would have, I wouldn't have took it down there, first of all. You know? Back then, I wasn't driving. I didn't have my license, so I wasn't driving nothing because I didn't want to hit nobody. Nobody hit me, and I don't have a license.
Andre's response at the photo of Vicky is strange and unsettling. That's not my work. Has he really forgotten about it, or is he trying to lie his way out of this one? The detectives are not in the mood for sugarcoating words here, so they share what they believe happened all that time ago.
What I think happened is you probably stole her car, abducted her from the metro station there at RFK.
You said that before.
Right.
I didn't steal no car.
Okay.
If I would have, I wouldn't have took it down there, first of all. You know? Back then, I wasn't driving. I didn't have my license, so I wasn't driving nothing because I didn't want to hit nobody. Nobody hit me, and I don't have a license.
So, I mean, even today, people drive around with no license. Like, I'm sure it was more widespread back then. Somebody didn't have a license, I'm sure they still drove.
That's them. That's not me.
Yeah. You remember being with somebody else when this occurred? When you may have gotten in the car with this young lady?
I don't remember getting in no car with a lady or a dude.
Okay.
You know, back then, I was ripping and running on my... Truthfully and honestly, back then I was selling drugs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Ain't no need pulling punches. I was selling drugs. So I didn't have a car. I wasn't jumping in and out of cars.
Right.
No. I remember getting in the car, you know, with 2 or 3 of my buddies, and they had a lady friend in there. I never paid attention to her face.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to say it was her or wasn't her. You know, when I got in the car at the time, we was taking a blow, so my head was down. You know, they had let me off where I wanted to get let off at and went on about their business or whatever. But like I said, I still can't reflect me shooting a woman.
Right.
You know, that's not me.
So this young lady you talked about that was in the car. Did you have any contact with her?
No.
The girl that was in the car that you talked about, there's 3 or 4 guys, 3 or 4 of your buddies picked you up, and there's a young lady
I
in the
didn't
car.
have contact with her.
Right. The reason why I asked that, this lady, when she was found on Bryant Road, now, you see the correlation? What I'm saying is how far you lived in Bryant Road, her car was found or was taken from blocks away from where you were hanging out from.
I follow what you're saying.
And then a couple days later, her car is found a block away from where you used to live in D.C.
The evidence is piling up against Andre here, but according to him, the worst he ever did was drug dealing. This is a lie. He was previously charged with murder in separate cases, back in both 1980 and 1989. And if you think his excuses so far are unconvincing, just hear what he has to say next about why he thinks his DNA was found in the first place.
How can you explain why your DNA was?
I understand. I'm trying to sit here and that's why I'm sitting here. And the day I'm trying to figure that out myself. I used to run by myself, and the buddy I used to run with, he's dead.
Who was that?
You know, that's who I used to run with, a buddy of mine. We used to have everything. And I don't remember him. See, me and him never run across him. That lady there, you know, like I said, I can't say I did not see her somewhere, or did not see her.
Right.
But I know I didn't kill nobody. I didn't nobody, like you said. How my DNA come up on her dress, I don't know. I can't answer that.
Right.
You know, I used to hug a lot of women. Women hugged me. I have slept with several women. And I never had a woman, I never took no woman down Brian's Road. Put it like that.
Okay.
I never took a woman stand there to have or not to have. I even went to a hotel or to my place. I never went back down that way. When I went that way, we all went together as a family at night, went home.
Andre has contributed almost nothing of value here. However, the detectives have noticed something very intriguing about him during these discussions. With the damning amount of evidence on hand, from his DNA on the victim's clothing to the victim's car found within walking distance of Andre's former home, Andre has gone from partial engagement to repeatedly denying all claims. No matter how much he refutes these claims, though, the walls are closing in on Andre here, and fast. With surmounting pressure on his shoulders, he then proposes a new theory to the detectives. Before we get to that, if you like watching killers like Andre, who think they're the smartest person in the room, find out they're not, subscribe.
You keep saying she was found on Brian's Road, right? Let me give you something. I'm not putting on he's dead now, but he had several dudes come down to the house with women because that was his home.
Right.
He could do that. You know, some of his friends and all that. Most of his friends was not my friend. You know, because at that time he was shooting heroin. I wasn't using heroin. I was selling.
Okay.
You dig what I'm saying? So a lot of times he may have taken women down there, whatever. That was his business. That was his home. Like I said, every time I went there, Miss Verwood would tell you, it was when she took me there.
Okay.
When I left there, it was in her car. She had a white Monte Carlo.
Okay.
That's how I used to get back and forth with her.
Okay.
You understand? That's it.
Right.
Like I said, I never had no women down there. I didn't even try to mess with her daughters, you know, to hit at them or nothing.
Okay.
You know.
You remember at any time bringing a girlfriend, any girl down from the city to Vera's house and bringing her back?
I never did.
Okay.
It's very, her daughters, everyone will tell you, I never brought a woman there. I never went to the house when they wasn't there because I was up top. We used to always say, well, I'm up top. At that time, I worked out Marriott for a while.
Right.
You know, no, I didn't take no woman there. I had no plan on. Like I said, if I had a woman I wanted to be with, either her house or a hotel. That's some on my place.
Yeah.
I never took a woman in Miss Vera's house. You know.
And then her car, again, I'm being very straightforward with you with exactly what our evidence is. Her car is later found.
You paint a picture. Like I said, back then, I wouldn't drive. Other people was driving. People steal cars, they park them anywhere. I'm not saying they did park it there or park, whoever parked it. Like you say, you paint a picture, 17th Street, the Armory Stadium Army is right there.
Yep.
No, I didn't do nothing like that. Like I said, at 17, 18, 19 years old, I was ripping and chasing women. I wasn't trying to kill nobody or hurt nobody, man.
Andre's friend at the time, Miss Vera, had a son who's now deceased, Tommy Bennett. If Tommy was supposedly seen taking women to and from his mother's home, could that mean that he was a potential suspect? Well, obviously not, as his red herring completely ignores the DNA evidence on hand here. Besides, it goes without saying, but a dead man cannot be questioned about his involvement, making Andre's suggestion far less believable. However, as the conversation continues, Andre makes a chilling admission.
You have to have some explanation of how specifically you're not just a rubbing or a touching, specifically was found on several pieces of her dress.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I was with several women.
Okay.
I'm not saying I was with her or wasn't with her. And if I was with her, I didn't kill her or leave her there. If I was with her, she would have been back where she's supposed to be in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
You know?
So any girls that you had that might have fought a little bit or anything?
What did what?
Fought a little bit? Yeah.
You mean fight?
Resist, yeah.
Back then, I don't think so. I mean, they was young teenager girls I was messing with. Like I said, most of the girls I was messing with, young teenager girls, and the older women would come in contact with me through association of them behind.
Right.
You know? And a lot of them, when they used to come up, we used to hug, swing around and everything. And kids, a lot of them out of they didn't take all their clothes off. You know, they just took their down, whatever. We get our thing off, bam, we gone.
Right.
You know, back then it was real wild for us.
You said these girls were traded. None of that occurred in Brian's Road. You said
I never took, like I said, I tell you again, I never took that to her house down Brian's Road. Her mom, when I stayed up in the district with her.
Okay.
You know, in the area where we saw her. Never took that to her home. I never would disrespect her home, your home, and nobody else's home was there. You know.
Any of these girls that you traded around the wooded area in the woods? Anything crazy?
Yeah, we went in the woods before, you know. Just so their husband wouldn't see him. You know, their boyfriend wouldn't see him. You know, I'm not going to tell you I did.
Okay.
They had whether in the cars.
Anywhere.
You know, wherever they parked their cars, we were at. You know, I get out and walk, and they go where they going. You know?
What about do you remember being in any cars at RFK Stadium? And girls were there? I know I keep on going back.
I know
forth.
you keep on going there, and I'm going to keep on taking you away from there.
Okay.
The closest that I may have been to RFK Stadium, like I told you before, is by Eastern High School.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
I used to go to Eastern and the girls there. No, you know, I have traded. I mean, we've had many different places that you wouldn't even think about. Laundromats, you know. I can just give you some strange places, you know, like you said, in the woods, but never down Bronze Road. I stand my staff. Woman killing no woman or nothing like that. You know, like I said, several times I done had when they're in the woods, out of the woods, but never did I take any woman down the Bronze Road, anywhere up and down there, by myself, with Miss Green family or without them, no.
Andre claims he was physically intimate in many locations, including the woods. As we mentioned before, Vicki Lynn Beck's body was found in a wooded area nearby Bryan's Road. This is a very incriminating statement on his part. Still, the detectives decide to ask him a few more blunt questions, and how all of this is making him look exceptionally guilty here.
At a particular time, did you recall if there's friends of you, if you needed a ride back to Bryan's Road, did that particular incident, did they give you a ride, drop you off? And still have that?
When I used to go back to Bryan's Road, I would strictly go with all us, me, Miss Green, her daughters and sons, we would ride in her car. She had a white Monte Carlo.
But you never had any friends drop you off from the city?
You mean down at her home?
Yeah, like in the area, like whether they actually took you to her house or not.
No.
The Bryan's Road shopping center area?
No. See, my thing was, she was helping me, and I'm not going to bring no trouble or bring no one to your home.
You understand? That makes sense.
No, that was my thing. That's the same way today.
Without bringing
yeah, but that's the same way today. Couldn't nobody tell you that my brothers and them lived over there in Southeast. Because I never took nobody there, because that was their home, my mother's and them home. I'm not going to disrespect you like that. I'm not going to bring trouble to your home like that. You know, no, never did anyone ever take me home, because if I didn't make it home with her, I used to have a little girl when I used to stay with Naomi, stay around the corner. You know, I go stay with her. You know,
the lady who was killed found in the area where you stayed, and her car was taken from the area where you lived in the city, and it was recovered back in the city in the same area where you lived.
Right.
And then she's dead, and her DNA specifically seen is all over her. So we need some kind of explanation for that.
I mean, I need an explanation for it.
Well, we're the ones here asking you.
No, I know what you said, but I'm saying I need an explanation for myself for it. You know? I'm not saying it couldn't have been a woman that me and her had got together, say that evening or whatever, and she rolled out. I don't know. I can't remember. But I know I did not go nowhere with no woman in a car by myself and do nothing to no woman.
Even if you weren't by yourself.
By this point, investigators are firmly stuck to their belief that Vicki was kidnapped when she parked her car at RFK Stadium. How else could she and her car end up miles away? According to Andre, there was only one person who could have been the culprit.
Well, in this particular case, you likely either have his name in the city or in the Bryan's Road area, not necessarily at the house where you stayed, but in that vicinity.
Right.
In Prince George's County, but she ended up in the area where you stay.
That's the funny part about it. Like he said, everything centers around where I hung out, where I stayed. You understand?
Yeah.
And the only thing I could picture, maybe somebody was trying to get me. Use somebody to get me.
Well, she has over her, and she's dead. And she's been shot. You're saying you didn't shoot her. You don't recall.
I don't recall. I can't recall. You know, I'm not going to sit here and make something up and make myself look good. I'm telling you what I know.
Well, that's what we're asking.
Yeah, I'm telling you what I know. I don't remember. If I did have, well, it wasn't down there on Bryan's Road nowhere.
Okay. But she came from the city. That's where she was taken from.
Okay, I didn't take nobody from the city down that way.
Do you have any idea who could have taken her from the city?
It could have been her son. It could have been anybody. Anybody, because we used to G girl. You know what G mean, right?
G-ing up a girl?
G-ing a girl.
Okay. Multiple guys?
Right. It could have been one of them with, I'm not saying, it could have been one of them things. Anything. I never took nobody down Bryan's Road. And then take her down there and then bring her car back to the city. That's crazy.
If it were, let's just example, if it were her son that was with you in the city and you with that in the city and he took the car and her back to Bryan's Road, is that possible?
It could have been him. I don't know. I left by myself. Like I said, I ran by myself. I can't pinpoint this woman here.
I think what you're saying is that you and Ms. Vera's son.
So I know what he was saying.
Together with a girl.
With a girl, and bam, whatever happened took place, and bam, he took her off, to Bryan's Road. If he did, I don't know. Like I said, I got out of the car.
But do you remember that you and the son and a female leaving the city together?
We did several times.
With a female?
Yeah, we did several times. Yeah. We didn't go to Bryan's Road. We went somewhere in there. And me afterwards, hey, I'm gone, Joe. Because I had drugs on me, I don't know what he did because, like I said, we didn't run together. He was older than me. We didn't really get along because I wasn't going to give him drugs every day. Right.
So to you, some of these girls, at some point between the city and Bryan's Road, the two of you would mess around.
We had them, but I didn't take them to Bryan's Road there. That's what I keep trying to tell you.
Andre claims that if anything physical did happen, it was consensual. Otherwise, whatever happened was all because of Tommy Bennett, his convenient yet unconvincing scapegoat. The detectives already have more than enough self-incriminating statements from Andre, but they continue to push for further questions about him. Unsurprisingly, he seems awfully eager to continue talking some more about his deceased friend in particular.
Did Tommy have any firearms or handguns that you knew of?
Yeah, he had firearms.
Okay.
He had several firearms.
Do you remember?
I can't say he had this kind of firearm or he had this one. All I know is he had different firearms I seen him with.
Like what? You remember what they looked like? What kind they were?
They was revolvers all I can tell you. I can't tell you it was 38, 45, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they was handguns,
Did you ever handgun with them while you guys had a girl in the car?
I can't say he did or didn't.
Right.
If he would have, I would have got out of the car. I wasn't around. I didn't like being around danger then. Because my thing was, I was getting a little money selling drugs. And that was that. That's where I was.
Right.
Like I said, when you first came to see me, you never told me a lot about that woman, this, that, and the other. And now all this come about, man. Then I heard the dude in the truck say something about, not you, the other dude that was driving.
Right.
44 years. 44 years, man. What are that? 44 years. Come on, man. I mean, if you've been looking for me for 44 years, where have I been? In and out of jail.
Right.
Right there in Washington, D.C. If I even thought this was going to come up against me, do you think I'd have stayed in D.C.? Right. I'd have took off.
Yeah.
Like I say, I was just living my life until this happened to me. Mm-hmm. And then this in my back that would happen to me.
Could you think of any reason why this would have happened. Anybody you know, anybody around you that was the type that would do this?
It was several. I mean, we'll put it like this. In the area we hung in 15th and Independence, that's where we hung. And so it was kind of all kinds of dudes there. You know, you don't know who they squatting on, what they squatting on. All they was thinking about was getting $1 to get some. You dig what I'm saying? Like I keep telling him, and I'll tell you, how much I did, I don't know. If it was a woman that I knew for sure, I could pinpoint and say, oh yeah, I know her.
Andre is quick to confirm that Tommy had plenty of guns in his possession. Could the murder weapon have been one of these? Or is he bringing up even more red herrings to throw the detectives off track? Then again, in the same interview, he would go on to admit that he allegedly owned numerous guns, but only for a few weeks at a time. Considering his history as a drug dealer and burglar, it's not surprising that he seemed to have easy access to firearms. Right now, however, that exact detail isn't particularly important. If Andre wants to walk out of that room a free man, he'll need a darn good explanation for this glaring detail.
Well, there has to be a close proximity in time between you having her and her ending up dead in Brian's area.
That's the whole point I'm confused about. If what's she doing down Brian's Road?
Correct. And
I don't have a car.
Why would she end up dead?
Yeah, why would she end up dead? That's not my thing.
And if she was trading,
sex, okay.
For you to
I had no problem giving her money, giving her drugs, whatever she wanted. You know, I can't walk from Brian's Road all the way back to Washington, D.C.
Right. But her car was back in D.C.
Okay.
In the same vicinity
where I hung out.
Right.
It could have been anywhere, like you said, it could have been put back over by the Stadium Army. Anywhere. Does that mean?
But it wasn't. It was put back closer to where you stand.
Okay, but does that mean I drove it?
No, it doesn't mean you drove it, but it's certainly close to where you would want to get back to without having to walk blocks. And I don't know how it was back then. If you're capable of walking outside of an area safely from your immediate area where you associate with. I don't know if there was gangs or crews back then.
Most of the area right there, if he knew the area, you didn't need a car to go around the corner, up the street and all that. You know?
But to go to Brian's Road, you would.
Would you? You ain't gonna walk down there. Yeah.
Not from
that was my beat as patrol officer. And I know the Marshall Hall area and the Brian's Road area. Still a hike even from Marshall Hall just to Brian's Road. But that's the same area we're talking about. When we say Brian's Road, we're talking about all the way down to the water.
I know what you're saying. It's like he said, and like you said, everything surround where I hung out pinpoints me. You know, from Browns Road back to DC 17th Street here, there, and you know.
And your DNA is most.
And my DNA, you know. I can't tell you I did have that day with some woman or any woman, you know. Only thing I can tell you is that I did not kill nobody. If I had with somebody, I accept that.
Do you know anyone that did kill her?
Who did what?
Do you know anybody that did kill Miss Bell?
That killed her? No.
Did Miss Green's son, Tommy?
I'm not going, you know what? He's dead and gone. I'm not going to throw the weight on him that he did. I mean, excuse me, he did.
That's fair. Do you remember any conversations he made or statements he may have made?
He made a lot of statements. Like I said, me and him didn't hang out together.
Andre is sick and tired of explaining himself, and he makes his feelings known.
Man, I ain't going to sit here and try to do this and do that. Like I said, if I thought that I did this or would have done this and that you were coming looking for me or him coming looking for me before this happened to my leg, I'd have been got out of town.
Right.
You understand? Before this happened to my kidneys and my back, they got out of town, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to stick around and go to jail or be charged with something that I didn't do.
In July 2023, Andre Taylor received a trio of charges, including first-degree murder. Ultimately, he was sentenced to life in prison in the Charles County Detention Center. He may have eluded custody for 4 decades, but now he'll remain behind bars until the end of his days. Vicki Lynn Beck's family had been waiting for decades for justice. During that long 4-decade wait, they even created the Vicki Beck Scholarship Foundation, where they supported more than 100 graduates in Alexandria, Virginia. When the sentence was handed down, there was widespread relief among them. It goes to show that even after 4 decades of waiting, they never gave up hope that the killer would finally be caught.